Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really fun team centered around Lunala as well as Groudon. Lunala is one of the more underrated restricted picks at the moment. In fact, I haven't really used it or gone up against it very frequently in this format at all, and I think you're going to see this Pokemon rise in usage in the upcoming weeks. This was a team built by a player called Cameron Smith, who I've linked down in the description below. There's a rental and a pace for the team, as well as a team report for it. Cameron actually got top 8 at the Liverpool Regional Championships with this exact team a couple of weeks ago, so huge congratulations to him, and thank you to him for sending the team in. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below. And thanks so much as always for watching. If you do enjoy, please share your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. So, what is the deal with Lunala? Why is this Pokemon good, and why don't we see it very much? First of all, it's got a really incredible ability in Shadow Shield. In fact, the combo of Lunala and Groudon won the World Championships in 2019, and in 2019, that duo also was not as common as some of the other restricted duos, and so this one is like a duo that has a lot of potential, but we just don't see in terms of, pure usage rates nearly as high as some of the other restricted duos. Part of it is because, Lunala is a relatively slow restricted mon. It is obviously 4 times weak into both Ghost and Dark type, and so you do have to be a little bit careful about how you position it. The other thing is, now that Dynamax exists, it is pretty easy to break Lunala's Shadow Shield if you just go for a max move onto it, right? All you need is any amount of chip damage onto it, and suddenly your ability is basically irrelevant. And so the thing about Lunala is basically positioning it so that you can maximize your usage of Shadow Shield, and often for that, it's going to be in the late game, right? I've had a lot of games with this team where basically I wait for Lunala to come out after my opponent's Dynamax is over, because then they threaten Lunala with a lot less damage. This Lunala is a solid max option, but it's not the primary max option on this team. In fact, I would actually say it's the number 4th max option I would go with after Thundurus, Venusaur, and Groudon. So one thing I really like about this team is the flexibility in your Dynamax options. The other thing is that I think both Groudon and Venusaur on this team have sets that allow it to be pretty valuable outside of Dynamax as well. I think Thundurus in this format with this Life Orb set is like, you can bring it as a non-max option, but it's just so much stronger when you're Dynamaxing it, and it's so weak when you're not maxing it. So, Thundurus is a mon that if you're bringing it, you're probably going to want to max almost all the time. But Groudon, Vidu, and Lunala all have the flexibility of maxing while also being pretty strong outside of Dynamax, right? So this team is a little bit bulkier and slower, but you also have fast modes. For example, you can lead Groudon Venusaur, you can lead Thundurus-Incineroar, you can lead Thundurus-Urshifu, which was actually a pretty common duo back in some of the earlier Sword and Shield formats. So it's not just a Trick Room team. You have a fast component to it, but you also have a slower component to it where you can use Lunala in the late game to set up Trick Room, thus allowing slower Pokemon like Groudon and Incineroar, and even Lunala in itself is pretty slow as well, to outspeed your opponents and just pick up knockouts. I think the thing to note here is with Lunala, because you're not maxing it very frequently, it actually sets up endgames really nicely where it's quite difficult to knock out because of Shadow Shield. So even if you've got a 4x super effective Ghost or Dark type attack, Lunala can tank one of those thanks to Shadow Shield often, and then still retaliate back with Trick Room. This is a classic power of Meteor Beam set, which is also really powerful because Meteor Beam is just so good into so many Pokemon in the format, and also allows you to obviously hit some Pokemon that you would otherwise struggle. For example, Incineroar is a big one. It also allows you to actually hit Indeedee, which is pretty important in this format as well. So overall, there's just a lot of strength here. You've got Swords Dance on Groudon, you've got Koba on Venusaur. Koba's a really big deal because there's so many Max Air Streamers in the format, whether it be Thundurus or Landorus T, for example. And so this allows you to, face up against them and threaten them with Sleep Powder or just G-Max Vine Lash. Sludge Bomb is also on this Venusaur. I feel like that was really common on Venusaur a couple of months ago in other formats, but now in this restricted format, you actually often see like Weather Ball or Protect more often. But Sludge Bomb's really nice with this team because you can combo it next to Lunala and then Max Ooze to give Lunala a further special attack boost as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And finally, you've got Instant and Urshifu just for classic support here as well. So you should read the team report here if you want to see, how Cameron really put it together and, ways that you can play with it. But I think it's just a really well-constructed team centered around restricted Pokemon that we don't see very much right now, but I think one that has a ton of viability in this format. And the European International Championships are actually taking place this weekend, and I would not be surprised to see Lunala do very well at that tournament. So, yeah. Thanks so much as always for watching. The question of the day is, what do you expect to do well at EUIC? I think Calyrex-Zacian teams have really picked up a lot in usage, whereas Calyrex-Zacian has definitely dipped a little bit in usage. And I'm also interested in seeing like some of the more unique restricteds like Lunala, Solgaleo, Dialga, for example. Rayquaza is one I'm really curious about because of its ability to control the weather, but I think it's really hard to build around. So those are just some options I'm looking at. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and let's get started. First game here, and we're up against Reshiram Zacian with Grimm, Gastro, Rillaboom, and Thundurus. Is this the AV Reshiram team that we featured a while back, like TSL Tang's team? Looks like the same Mons if I remember correctly. If that is the case, how do I want to approach this? Reshiram's actually very good into a lot of the Mons here, which is scary. Our best bet would be actually like Meteor Beam with Lunala into maybe even Dynamaxing this. Trick Room's also interesting. Venu gets absolutely dunked on by Reshiram, so I have to be careful about bringing that in. Thundurus isn't really a great max option for us here. I could go Thundurus plus Groudon though as a possibility, I guess. And Incin's kind of weird here as well. So what's the lead that I can see my opponent going for? Grimm plus Reshiram maybe? I kind of want to push the tempo early with Lunala and Groudon in this game, I think. Venu can still be okay with Sludge Bomb and a Grimm. I guess actually Groudon and Venu here, and with the option of not maxing Venusaur in this game, because I can pressure Sleep Powder onto Reshiram early. Lunala in the back. Yeah, I kind of like that more. And then for the last one, I'm going to go with Urshifu because it offers me better damage output into Reshiram just for a single Wicked Blow. And it also ignore Grimmsnarl setting up a potential Reflect here. So, yeah. Either way, though, I think Reshiram actually has a pretty positive matchup into Sun. Although, I mean, Groudon is a decent max option into it, so that's part of the reason why I'm maxing or bringing Groudon plus Venusaur, because it gives me the flexibility of maxing Groudon early. But it's going to be Grimm and Thundurus, which I'm honestly okay with. So with this lead, I could turn one, I think, go for Sleep Powder onto Thundurus and then Swords Dance with Groudon. I wonder if they max Thundurus here. Maxing it does make some sense, no? But if you max it and you don't target Groudon, you're in really bad shape. So yeah, I'm down to just Sleep Powder and Swords Dance here. I feel like there's not great counterplay to this double up. Okay, they're not going to max Thundurus. I actually don't remember the original Thundurus set on that team and whether it was offensive or defensive. Yeah, it was offensive. But they go for Fly. Okay, cool. Smart decision not to max. It does mean I'm going to not get a Sleep Powder off, but it also means I get a Swords Dance off, which I'll gladly take. I actually think we're in pretty solid shape right now. I mean, you can go for a Reflect, obviously. I don't want to switch Venu out. I've got the Koba Berry. If I max here, I give myself a special defense boost, which allows me to deal with Reshiram a lot better. I don't really think I care about Thundurus right now either. Yeah, okay. I am down to double up onto the Grimm right now. And just get that out of the way, I think. Because the thing is, if you're not maxing Thundurus in this game, what is it really going to do for you? Actually, you know what? I think I didn't need to max Groudon here. I think Sludge Bomb and just Precipice Blades was better. Although the logic behind maxing here is I get a special defense boost, meaning that their Reshiram is really going to struggle to deal damage to me. And I can one-shot Reshiram or Thundurus, right? So the main thing here is like maybe avoiding targeting Thundurus because I don't really want to deal with the Fly. Like, if I go for a Rockfall as Thundurus goes for a Fly, I just waste an attack, right? And it's Assault Vest Reshiram on that team. Also interesting to note, Grimm did not go for a Light Screen or a Reflect there. Okay. We get full paired, but if anything, that might work in my favor. In the off chance Sludge Bomb, like, just crits them and gets a one-hit KO. Or just naturally gets a one-hit KO. We get a crit there with Groudon, but that one not really mattering. Okay. So our early game is looking really good, and then like the other thing about having Lunala right now is that it gives me a lot of insurance against the Reshiram, because I can easily take an attack and then retaliate back with a very powerful Meteor Beam against either of the Pokemon out on the field right now. So I'm just kind of waiting for Venusaur to faint, but the nice thing about Venusaur on this composition is that it doesn't need to max because you've got Sleep Powder. Zacian comes out, okay. So with Zacian here, I guess Thundurus could max. But Groudon can easily take a Blade. I think here I'm down to just Max Quake. And honestly Sleep Powder into Thundurus. And the other thing is I'm kind of waiting for... Okay, they're actually going to max Thundurus. I kind of wanted to go for a Trick Room with the Lunala. One of the best strengths of this team is that Lunala, with its ability, makes it actually quite difficult to KO, even if you double up onto it. Maybe... Did Thundurus on that team have a dark type attack? I actually don't think it did. Yeah, Zacian goes for sub. Okay, that's fine. Sub is gonna be able to stall out my Dynamax decently effectively. Oh, they actually Knuckle. I like that play because you give yourself an attack boost, making it scarier for Groudon right now. Well, if I doubled up on a Zacian, or yeah, with like Earth Power plus Quake, I would be in really good shape right now. We do hit the Sleep Powder though, so Thundurus can't do anything now. Okay. I really don't know the damage calc as to whether or not +2 Zacian Behemoth Blade KOs Groudon right now. So I'm very curious about that. Okay. Sub breaks. Another special defense boost. Yeah, I mean, here I'm down to just Max Quake and Earth Power into Zacian. I could Sleep Powder as well, I suppose, but the scary thing about Sleep Powder is the accuracy and the paralysis roll. So they're just going to Blade. I expect this to KO Groudon, but I'm not 100% sure of it. Let's see. I think it should, though. Oh my gosh, never mind. Groudon is actually just so bulky. I don't remember the amount of attack investment that Zacian had either, but... with this, the Lunala endgame is looking fantastic. And part of it was because my opponent went for a Knuckle, but they just didn't respect Venusaur Sleep Powdering there, right? And by not respecting Sleep Powder and allowing me to actually put your Dynamax option to sleep, like, it already denies you one turn of Dynamax and potentially another one as well. So, I can see why they maxed the Thundurus, but in the end, the max probably wasn't worth it if you're not going to be able to knock out Groudon there. I was kind of expecting it to, but it's just so rare, like, going up against a +2 Zacian rather than +1. Most of the times you're against +2 Zacian, it's like Ditto copying you, so... I really wasn't sure about that calc off the top of my head, but I had severely overestimated Zacian's damage, honestly. Okay, Reshiram's the last one, no surprise there. And Lunala should be able to clean up against both of these, but I didn't want to lead it here because I wanted to apply early pressure with this, with my lead specifically here. So I'm down to just Precipice Blades into an Earth Power onto Reshiram. Okay, Thundurus does manage to wake up, so they are going to get Airstream off into Venusaur. But with all the special defense boosts on Groudon, I don't think Reshiram can really KO the Groudon. So the scary thing is if Precipice Blades misses, but even if it does, then I'll bring out the Lunala and protect Groudon and Trick Room, and then just Rock Slide into Meteor Beam or Moongeist Beam. Okay, there's Blue Flare. Is that a crit? Oh, it actually does just get the KO. Okay. I didn't actually think that would knock out, to be honest, because we were at, what, +3 special defense? Now, the sun was obviously up, but yeah. My damage calcs in this game weren't exactly on the dot. I do want to do that one after this game, because I'm curious. Now we get Lunala out, though, next to Urshifu, and because they have a speed boost, like, it's a clear Trick Room endgame. So here we are going to click Trick Room. We're going to protect. I guess the main scary thing right now is potentially missing a Meteor Beam, because the next turn I want to go for a double up onto Reshiram with Meteor Beam into Wicked Blow, and hopefully that's enough to pick up a KO. I guess if Thundurus doesn't go for Fly, I could target it as well, but I'm pretty sure Reshiram is AV here, because that was the original team. Beautiful, Brick Break and Urshifu, okay. Yeah, and Earth Power, sick. Okay, and Lunala gets Trick Room. This is one of the main strengths of Lunala, as I mentioned earlier. Like, it's a really nice Trick Room user as a restricted mon. I'm trying to think if I actually really need to click Meteor Beam here, because I am scared about missing. If I miss this turn, is it the end of the world? Like, basically, I'm thinking Moongeist Beam double up onto the Thundurus is a little bit better here. But Thundurus protecting is certainly a possibility. And I'm not confident in Moongeist Beam plus Wicked Blow KOing Reshiram. So I'll go for the double up onto Reshiram here, I think. Thundurus can't really do very much into the Lunala at all. So if we hit the Meteor Beam here, we should be good. Unless Reshiram's actually bulky enough to survive Meteor Beam plus Wicked Blow. And it might be with Assault Vest, I'm not 100% sure. Like, these are damage calcs, like games like these are so valuable because like I'm not going to normally go out of my way to learn like Reshiram damage calcs, right? Yeah, that's enough. Perfect. So Lunala was actually really essential to clean up this end game for Trick Room. That's one of the things I like about this team. You have like a really fast mode with the Venusaur in Sun next to Groudon, and then you have a Trick Room mode where you can utilize Lunala next to Pokemon like Groudon to, you know, put in work under Trick Room. So the thing is, they doubled up onto Urshifu that turn, but even if they doubled up onto Lunala, like Reshiram, you know, would go for a fire type attack like Blue Flare, and then Thundurus doesn't have a dark type attack on that team. If they had a dark type attack like Lash Out, for example, or Foul Play, things would have been a little bit scarier. And then they very actually easily could have won this game with a double up there. But yeah, this is the Reshiram team we featured previously. So the Thundurus has Brick Break, Wild Charge, Fly, and Protect, I believe. And Moongeist Beam will get the knockout onto Thundurus, so Lunala putting in so much work for us in this end game. That's the thing, right? Like, this team has a lot of good max options. Groudon's good, Venusaur is good, Thundurus is good, and the beautiful thing about the Lunala on this team is that you're not going to Dynamax it most of the time. And if anything, it's often better not Dynamax because you get that +1 boost from Meteor Beam, and then you can, you know, get a lot of damage off with Moongeist Beam as well. So I think it was a great demonstration for how you can use different modes to play different phases of the game, right? We used the faster Venusaur mode in the early game. You know, they were able to Thunder Wave us, but we were able to apply pressure with Sleep Powder early, and then Swords Dance on Groudon really, really good as well. And then this late game where Lunala just came out and was able to set up Trick Room and basically seal up the game for us. So great debut for Lunala here, and Swords Dance Groudon was awesome as well. So let's keep things going. Whoa, this is a really cool team. Galarian-Moltres, Gyarados, Raichu, Zamazenta, Ditto, and Calyrex Shadow Rider. Huh. As always, you know, every time I go up against teams like this, I'm like, if I lose, I'm honestly happy because we get to see some really cool strats. So Raichu, have to worry about Nuzzle, have to worry about weakness policy, like activations with Volt Switch, mainly into Galarian-Moltres. I honestly just like, this is like a bunch of really unexpected Pokemon that I honestly do not know what to expect here. Lunala's gonna have to be a little bit careful here, given the Galarian-Moltres and the Calyrex. Thundurus might be an okay call here. Like, we don't have a dark type attack, so, you know, dealing with Shadow Rider could be a little bit scarier. Ensign's okay. I feel like we should probably bring Ensign, right? Like, it's got Darkest Lariat. This is so interesting. I'm, like, a little bit nervous about Venusaur here. So I'm thinking Ensign, Thundurus, Groudon, Lunala. So many good max options with that combo. I like Ensign, Thundurus lead, I think. Lunala, Groudon in the back. I'm actually really nervous about Galarian-Moltres. Yeah. Especially if it's AV with Foul Play. That would be a nightmare for us to go up against right now. So, really cool team. I mean, Zamazenta in itself doesn't see much usage. This is definitely not a standard Calyrex comp in the slightest. Zamazenta Gyarados. Okay, I mean, I'm okay with this. I get a quick Intimidate off, and they activate Defiance, so I feel like that's actually as good as it can be. With Zamazenta, you know, you have to worry about things like Howl, Coaching, Behemoth Bash, Wide Guard. Okay. There's Defiant. And Intimidate. I honestly feel like this is the best lead I could have asked for. So, this is super good. Now, the main thing to watch out for is my opponent switching out into Raichu right now with either of their slots. So I'm going to be a little bit careful about that. One thing I'm intrigued by is the idea of switching in Groudon to give it a speed boost. Dynamax here. And then Airstream into Gyarados. I think I'm down for that, because if Thundurus gets an Airstream off in this game, it allows it to outspeed the Calyrex Shadow Rider. And then, like, Groudon with a single speed boost doesn't necessarily do a lot, but if it gets a second speed boost, which I think is likely in this game, then we'll be in great shape. So, I could have targeted the Zamazenta slot as well, but it's like, what am I really going to do there, right? I could fake out with the Incineroar here, but I'm choosing not to, because I think I'd rather gain better positioning. And denying Zamazenta a single attack this turn, I don't think really accomplishes too much. It's interesting, though, they're staying in with Gyarados. I was expecting a switch into Raichu on either slot. So it means I could have just gone for Max Lightning there, but I'm fine going for a speed boost here. Like, even if Zamazenta goes for a Howl or Coaching, it's really not that bad, thanks to that early Intimidate. Having both of your lead Pokemon be physical attackers that get intimidated obviously does not put you in a great spot. Wow, they're going to Dynamax Gyarados. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm really okay with that, right? Like, what are you really going to do that scares me in this position? We also have to think about the end game, but that's why Incineroar is a really pivotal Pokemon here, because it just has a good matchup in a Calyrex Shadow Rider. Lunala obviously doesn't love taking Astral Barrage, but with the Shadow Shield, we can take an attack and then Trick Room. Okay, Airstream's already over 50%, so that's fantastic. Neither Pokemon protect or switch. What are you seeing here? Okay, it's just going to be a quick coaching on the Gyarados. So you're back to neutral attack, +1 defense. And a Geyser. And Groudon obviously doesn't love taking a Geyser, but yeah, they actually target Thundurus for very little damage. Zamazenta here actually slower than Thundurus as well, which is interesting. And it's Life Orb. Okay. I think +2 Groudon should outspeed. Yeah, 222. I can switch back out into Incin, honestly. Not completely opposed to that. The main thing is that they just got a defense boost, so I'm worried about like Zama going out into Raichu. They could also protect and coaching. What I can do is like Rock Slide into Airstream right now. I do want to be a little bit careful here, I think. I'm actually going to switch back out into Incin. And I'm willing to go for Lightning here because it, you know, if you do end up staying in, I'll just punish you really heavily. And even if you switch out into Raichu, like Gyarados is down to -1 again. So Geyser shouldn't KO me. So even if you bring out Raichu, then you take some more Life Orb damage, and then I can Airstream you the next turn for a KO. Cool, and they stay in. And they protect Zamazenta. Nice. Part of the reason I made this play was because like they clearly showed that they were willing to play very aggressively by not switching out Gyarados on the first turn of the game. Or sorry, Zamazenta out on the first turn of the game. Really, either Pokemon, I guess. And so their tendency to play a little bit more aggressively makes me think they either didn't bring Raichu in the back. I mean, I feel like if you had Raichu, you would have switched it in one of the 2 turns here. So now we just get a KO, and we should be in very good shape for the end game. Now, I still have to worry about Galarian and Moltres. That was actually the #1 threat going into this game. Calyrex comes out, which I'm okay with seeing, because it's not really that much of a threat to us. At least not against the 2 Pokemon we have on the field currently. Okay, Calyrex out. I mean, I don't care about Zamazenta because its damage output is pretty insignificant here. So I'm down to just Airstream Calyrex and then just Starkest Lariat it as well. Okay, Zama switches out. Yeah, I would expect Moltres here. Ooh, it's actually Ditto. Okay, that's pretty cool. Interesting they didn't bring Moltres, but I'm actually happy to see that, if anything, because I don't think Thundurus here is actually too scary to deal with. And the nice thing is that I'm getting another speed boost via Airstream here, so even if you are Scarfed, at best it's a speed tie. And if you're not Scarfed, I just outspeed you. Okay. And then Lunala can also just dunk on Thundurus in the end game. It's going to be a barrage, yep. I will say it's a good thing I didn't click Parting Shot there onto the Thundurus slot. But there's very little reason for me to Parting Shot Zamazenta other than getting a free switch out. But you do have to consider the Ditto switch-in possibility. Okay, so I'm really speedy with Thundurus now. They're going to bring Zama back in. Yeah, I do have to be a little bit careful, but actually... Yeah, if I Parting Shot instant here, then I can just Fake Out and bring in Lunala and just play towards the Trick Room endgame. One thing I have to be aware of, though, is Wide Guard from their end, from Zamazenta. Yes. I could go for the hard switch out as well, but I think here I'm down to just Parting Shot into Zamazenta and just Wild Charge into Ditto. Because Zamazenta's not a damage dealer, really. Interestingly enough, though, my opponent can keep boosting Ditto's stats via coaching, but in this position, I don't mind activating Defiant if it means I get a free switch in. And actually, Thundurus just moves first and gets the Wild Charge for a KO, so we didn't really need Zamazenta. Or sorry, Lunala in this one. But now we've set ourselves up for an endgame. I mean, we don't even really need to bring Lunala out, but the beautiful thing is the late game Trick Room possibility. So this was one in which I think, yeah, the Dynamax on Gyarados just didn't really offer my opponent very much, but to be honest, like, their max options on that team, just none of them face are super good into the composition we're using. Like, you've got max on the... I'm gonna bring it in here. You can max the Gyarados or the Moltres. I think Moltres might be a little bit better for them, but neither are really heavy damage dealers. Ditto, not really. Reliable. Calyrex Shadow Rider, especially the Sash variant, not reliable either. So yeah, we're just gonna Trick Room and Fake Out here. So what's interesting about this team is like figuring out when to actually use the Lunala. Do you want to use it in the early game or the end game? And so far in both games 1 and 2, we've like conserved it for the end game. The reason I like that is because I don't necessarily want to set up Trick Room immediately to start the game off, right? And Thundurus worked. Like, this was a game in which like it almost felt like we won just off the lead matchup. But they're pretty Thundurus weak, to be honest, right? Like, I think they needed to bring Raichu here because without it, I guess even with Raichu, they still would have been in a tough spot. I'm just going to Meteor Beam and Flare, or sorry, Moongeist Beam and Flare Blitz here. Yeah, I mean, I think Zamazenta should survive this double up easily, but alright, maybe not so easily. And we get the burn too. Yeah, Moongeist Beam might finish it off here. Like, this is funny for me because like I can't really estimate my calcs nearly as well because like 1, we're using Lunala, which is a restricted I don't have a ton of experience with, and then 2, we're going up against all these restricteds that I also don't have that much experience playing against. But yeah, Zamazenta does survive, which is what I was expecting. We do get a burn, but obviously it doesn't really matter because Zama just can't really do anything into the Lunala here. So this team has really opened my eyes to how underrated Lunala is in the format right now, and even though it's not like single-handedly carrying us in these games, it's allowing for such nice end games for us. Although I guess in game 2 here, like we basically could have won in a variety of different ways, but with Trick Room here just makes things so much safer, right? But I think the main thing with my opponent's team is a really cool team. They just didn't have great max options, and their max options were really weak into Thundurus, right? Like both Gyarados and Calyrex-S aren't super good into Thundurus. In fact, you know, in previous Sword and Shield formats, like a lot of people liked using Thundurus because Moltres has a terrible time against it, right? Like Max Airstream doesn't do much into Thundurus, and then Max Darkness would activate Defiant. So it felt like my opponent only had one real max option in the Gyarados, but because of the lead that they had, and the fact that Gyarados was their only max option, and the fact that Thundurus matches up so well into it, they just didn't really have too many options. So this was a really tough matchup for them, to be honest. Yeah, like even if they brought the Raichu, I'm not sure things would have changed too much because Thundurus was just super strong into their entire team. So yeah, sometimes it is just a matchup diff, but let's look for another. Third game here, and we're up against a pretty classic Palkia Calyrex Ice Rider team. You know, we've featured this comp already. It continues to be pretty strong in the format at the moment, so what's interesting here really is going to be the speed dynamic between our Pokemon. I'm also curious how fast the Palkia is. Like, Lunala and Groudon don't really have any speed investment here. So I've got Venu as well, but I don't think that comes out in this matchup because it's really bad in a Calyrex. Actually, Venu would work for Sleep Powders, but if I were my opponent, I would be cautious of leading Amoonguss for that very reason. If you want to get Trick Room up, you can go Indeedee +1 of Palkia, Porygon, or Calyrex. I'm interested in Swords Dance Groudon then. The other question is, are you Sash on Indeedee? Could lead Lunala to reverse their Trick Rooms immediately too. Honestly, I'm pretty interested in Lunala and Groudon with Instant and Urshifu in the back. I would probably lead Urshifu here if I knew Indeedee was not Focus Sash, because then it's just a relatively free Wicked Blow into that slot. I think Thundurus is really rough into this matchup because they're just all slower than Thundurus, meaning like if they get a single Trick Room up and I Dynamax Thundurus, I just get so little value out of it. And Thundurus doesn't really do that much damage to Palkia or Calyrex here anyway. So we eliminate that from even, you know, consideration as to whether or not we'd want to bring it. Okay, it's going to be Indeedee and Palkia. So this is like a little bit interesting because you could actually just max Palkia in the beginning of the game because Palkia is actually going to be faster than Groudon here. Which is very interesting. Good lead by them, by the way, because if they had led with like Porygon or Calyrex-I.Incineroar, I think they would have been in a tougher position here. It was Psychic Seed on Indeedee, so Urshifu would have been a decent call. Okay. I could max Groudon turn 1, honestly. The thing about maxing Groudon is if Palkia maxes, you can just Geyser or Wormwind into Groudon right now. Which isn't great for me, right? What are my other options? I'm thinking... I'm not completely opposed to just Meteor Beam and Protect on turn 1. Because if we bait out a Palkia Dynamax, then turn 2 I can just switch Groudon out. And stall out their max. They are going to max Palkia, okay. My issue with maxing Groudon here is if they go for a Geyser turn 1, they change the weather and their Life Orb, then if I max Groudon, and since they're faster, they can just Geyser the Groudon slot turn 2. And like, it'll be under rain, so I'll be potentially dealing with the Life Orb max Geyser against Groudon in rain. So what I'm trying to do basically is leverage my Dynamax advantage right now because I have one extra turn of Dynamax. At least one extra turn. Indeedee did not go for a Follow Me there, which is concerning. I think it's probably going to click Shadow Ball here onto not Calyrex, onto Lunala, which is also a problem for me. So, it is Geyser and a Groudon. Honestly, that's okay for now. Get Meteor Beam off. This is a great lead by them. And if this were a best of 3, I'm already thinking like what I would do. Even though it obviously isn't. Like, it's always healthy to just like walk yourself as to how you would adjust against your opponent's leads. Urshifu would be really nice, because I could just Wicked Blow turn 1. That's not much damage into Indeedee either. Oh, that's interesting. It's actually Mystical Fire into the Groudon slot. Okay. I'm actually thinking about maxing Lunala right now. The thing is, they're just going to Geyser into Groudon and then Mystical Fire into Lunala, no? Does +1 max Rockfall KO Indeedee from that range? It's really close, but it's slightly higher base power than the Meteor Beam that we had, and Meteor Beam did just under 50%. Okay. I'm actually sacrificing the Incin here, because I find Urshifu to be a little bit more valuable. Now, normally Intimidate's really good against Calyrex-I.Incineroar, but I have 2 Pokemon that do a ton of damage into Calyrex-I.Incineroar with Lunala as well as Urshifu. Right? So, what's the point of Intimidate if I can just KO you? The other thing is, if I bring in Urshifu right now, because I'm going for max Rockfall, Geyser will go off first, changing the weather. Or, sorry, it won't change the weather, it'll still be rain. I'll go for a max Rockfall. That'll change the weather. And by going for a Rockfall there, that causes me some issues, because then, you know, Urshifu's Focus Sash, and I just lose Urshifu. So basically, this turn, I'm losing 1 Pokemon. I just have to choose which one I'm losing. I guess they could target Lunala, but I'd be surprised if they did. Oh, they do? Okay. Interesting. I actually think that's a pretty solid play from their end. Oh, Indeedee does survive that. That's brutal. Okay. Because it's probably a Mystical Fire then going out into Lunala. Huh. They target the instant slot, which I'm obviously very happy about. It's a very pleasant surprise. Okay. Yeah, the only downside right now is, like, I can't even safely go for a... Okay, Indeedee faints after Sand this turn. If I were them, I would follow me and then Geyser into Incin right now. Follow me, Geyser into Incin. What can I do to counteract that? I have an extra turn of Dynamax, which is a pretty big deal. I don't think Incin really provides me much value here, so I'm actually down to just Rockfall. I'll target the Palkia slot because you faint from Sand here anyway, and I'm always moving after you, and then I'll Parting Shot Palkia as well. Yeah, I like that. I think we've been pretty lucky that Lunala's avoided 2 Mystical Fires so far. Not avoided, but my opponent's just not launched Mystical Fire into that slot, I should say. Okay, it's going to be Wyrmwind onto Lunala. I mean, this game highlights how bulky Lunala can be, right? We took a max Geyser into a max Wyrmwind, and I'm still at just under half my health. The only downside was not KOing Indeedee from that combo, right? Like, if it had fainted, then you would have to bring in, like, one of your final Pokemon. I guess Porygon would not be a bad switch in for them, though. It would actually be really good for them to bring out. But now I have an extra turn of Dynamax to work with. I guess the only awkward thing is, like, Sand being up, but I can just change the weather with Groudon, so I'm going to bring Groudon out here. The other nice thing about the Lunala-Groudon combo is now I can Phantasm drop your defenses into Precipice Blades right now. I don't think Hydro Pump from Lustrous or Palkia should KO the Groudon either. In the sun. I don't think you can bring in Calyrex here, so you have to go to whatever your final 4th Pokemon is. They do bring in Calyrex, though. Huh, okay. Actually, the problem with them bringing Calyrex here is that both Pokemon currently threaten Trick Room, which is interesting. Yeah, that is actually very interesting. I'm not going to Rockfall here. 2 turns of Psychic Terrain. Psychic Terrain is actually important to count here because of Sucker Punch from Urshifu. I think Lunala... Okay, I'm worried about, like, Spatial Rend into Glacial Lance or protect Calyrex with Trick Room on Palkia. Those are both possible plays that my opponent can make right now. I went Phantasm Blades here. They didn't protect, which is not good. Yeah, that doesn't one-shot Palkia. Ugh, okay. Well, let's see if they Trick Room here. If they click Trick Room, I actually think we're in better shape, because then I just have Incin, and I didn't activate your policy. Oh, great. Okay, Palkia did click Trick Room here. Oh, yeah, I should have noted that immediately, because they didn't go for an attack. Great. And the Glacial Lance. Ooh, Swords Dance. Okay, nice. That actually wins us the game then, I think. Well, it wins us the game if we don't miss Precipice Blades right now. So they were going for Swords Dance plus Trick Room. I didn't mention that as an option, but I think that one is really aggressive. Ooh, Porygon's their last one, though. Okay. It's not necessarily over yet. Because I can't really deal much damage into Porygon at the moment. I think what I can do is I've got my own Trick Room. So I kind of want to just reverse their Trick Room right now. Wait, actually, it's the last turn of Psychic Terrain. The only thing I'm worried about is the Calyrex having, or Porygon having Ally Switch. If they don't have Ally Switch, then I can just switch out. I also don't really want to set up Trick Room for them. I think that's scary. Okay, I'm down to go out into Incin then. And Blades. If I stayed in with Lunala, I could click Trick Room. Like, I was thinking, even if I set up Trick Room for my opponent because Porygon doesn't click Trick Room, is that the end of the world? Not necessarily. Oh god, they actually just go for ally switch immediately. Okay. So I'm actually okay with this because even if I miss Precipice Blades, I think it's fine for this turn, but we don't miss, which is amazing. So I'm really glad to feature... Oh, we actually don't KO Calyrex there. Okay. But that's fine because now I just bring out the Urshifu, and Urshifu cleans up this game for us very nicely. Okay, Groudon feigns put. Yeah. So we just had a high damage roll on that first Precipice Blades, hence the survive. Okay, there's an attack boost. No more terrain, meaning I can click Fake Out now with ease. So let's just bring out Urshifu. And now we're just going to Fake Out Porygon Wicked Blow into Urshifu. Sorry, Wicked Blow into Calyrex. Yeah. The main play I was worried about the turn where Palkia and Calyrex were next to each other was the Spatial Rend into Glacial Lance play, because that might just allow you to pick up a double KO. Then we would have had Incin Urshifu against... Maybe we would have still been okay, because Incin and Urshifu are pretty strong in this endgame as well. But Urshifu really nice for us in this endgame, so I'm very happy I brought it over the other options. But I think Thundurus and Venusaur just don't make too much sense in this matchup. Venu would be an adjustment you would make if you were expecting your opponent to go with Amoonguss in the subsequent game, because then you can like go for Sleep Powders, right? But if I were playing my opponent again, since now I know that they have the Psychic Seed on Indeedee, I think Urshifu lead is actually really valuable. But one thing that helped in this match was that my opponent never targeted the... Well, actually, I guess Lunala didn't really get that much damage off with its attacks anyway, where it wasn't like we were picking up one-hit knockouts with it, right? But I'm glad to have a bunch of different Lunala games. The only thing that we didn't have was like a early Lunala game where we did in Dynamax, but Lustrous Orb, yep, that's the expected item, max HP, Trick Room, they did have Flamethrower here, so no Protect. Psychic Seed on the Indeedee, follow me, Mystical Fire, Heal Pulse, Protect, Wikiberry Amoonguss, Eviolite P2, yeah, Foul Play and Ally Switch, Recover Trick Room, Nightmare. The Beery Berry on the Calyrex, no Protect on this either, and then Sash on the Incineroar. So, yeah. There are a lot of different ways you can run this team, specifically with like the item on Palkia, the speed investment on Palkia, the fourth move, yeah, do you want Flamethrower, do you want Protect, do you want Earth Power, for example. ADD can be Focus Sash, you can have some flexibility in your moves with Helping Hand, for example. Amoonguss can be Sash, it could be Mental Orb, you could have Foul Play on it, for example. Eviolite Porygon, many different ways you can run this as well. Sometimes you see Dusclops. Calyrex, you can run White Herb, Lumberry, Weakness Policy, right, like a variety of attacks there. And then Incin, yeah, item dependent. This is actually the max speed variant, which is something that's been picking up in usage a little bit more as well. Specifically, with Focus Sash helps you about a little bit more in the Kyogre matchups. Although Palkia and Amoonguss here are very good into Kyogre in itself. So, yeah. I would have not first guessed that Sash was on it, so I would have thought Amoonguss or Indeedee on this team. But that's the thing, right? In this Series 12 format, there are a lot of guessing games as to like where the key items are. So that's going to be it for this one. Really happy to show off what Lunala can do in this format. So yeah, this is a Pokemon that I expect to definitely see more people play in the upcoming tournaments, just because I think it's one that hasn't been explored very much, and this team really has just done such a good job like building around Lunala. So yeah. Thanks so much as always for watching. Thank you to Cameron once again for the team. Details in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.